She traveled alone at 68 and vanished. Avoid these 6 life-changing risks. Have you ever stood at the airport, suitcase in hand, passport tucked away, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and a tiny whisper of worry you tried to ignore? Maybe it was just a thought. What if something happens while I'm alone? But you brushed it off. After all, you've traveled before. You're experienced, independent. But something about doing it now after 65 feels different. You're not imagining it. Traveling after retirement can be one of the most fulfilling, joyful things you'll ever do. The world is still waiting for you. Bustling markets, quiet beaches, long train rides through the countryside. But let's not pretend age doesn't come with changes. Not in ability, necessarily, but in how we experience the journey. What we once handled without a second thought can now carry unexpected challenges. And those little things, missed steps, small misunderstandings, one wrong turn, can spiral into situations that are not just inconvenient, but dangerous. That's why we need to talk. Because I want you to keep exploring this beautiful world. But I want you to do it safely, smartly, and with your eyes wide open. In this video, we're diving into 6 real risks that can catch even the most seasoned senior traveler off guard when going solo. These aren't meant to scare you, but to empower you. Because when you know what to expect, you can plan, prepare, and protect yourself so that every trip is a good one. Let's begin with something that's far more common than we'd like to admit. Getting disoriented in a new place. When we're younger, it's easier to adapt to new environments. Different languages, confusing road signs, unfamiliar bus systems. But after 65, the brain isn't quite as quick to adapt, especially under stress. Picture this. You arrive in a foreign city after a long flight, you're exhausted, and you're trying to figure out which train takes you to your hotel. The signs don't make sense. Your phone's GPS isn't loading, and suddenly nothing looks familiar. You feel your heart start to race. Sound familiar? That confusion can escalate fast. One wrong train, one missed stop, and suddenly you're somewhere you didn't plan to be, with no one around who speaks your language, and no one back home who knows where you are at that exact moment. And if your memory isn't as sharp as it used to be, or if anxiety starts to cloud your thinking, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or even panicked. But here's the thing. This kind of situation is preventable. One way? Build in buffer time. Don't schedule tight transfers or try to figure everything out on arrival. Print out key directions. Carry a small card in your wallet with your hotel's name and address translated into the local language. And most importantly, let someone back home know your itinerary, check in regularly, and consider using a tracking app that allows a loved one to see your location in real time, just in case. Now let's talk about health, specifically medical care while traveling. At home, if you start feeling lightheaded or your chest feels tight or your blood sugar crashes, you know what to do. You know which doctor to call, which clinic is nearby, what insurance covers. But imagine being in a small town in a country where you don't speak the language and you start to feel off. You're not sure if it's indigestion or something more serious. And suddenly you're faced with a decision. Do you try to wait it out and risk it? Or do you seek help and hope someone understands? This is a situation that's especially risky when you're alone. There's no one to observe changes in your behavior or symptoms. No one to advocate for you at a hospital if you can't communicate. No one to explain your medical history if you lose consciousness or get confused. The solution isn't to stay home, it's to get proactive. Before any trip, talk to your doctor. Ask if you're medically cleared to travel alone. Get a written summary of your medical history and prescriptions, translated if needed. Carry it with you, always, and look into short-term travel insurance with medical evacuation coverage. It's a lifesaver, literally, and it's not as expensive as you might think. Also, let's not forget that our bodies respond differently to things like altitude, dehydration, and fatigue as we age. You might feel fine while boarding the plane, but after hours in a dry cabin, a couple of missed meals, and a few glasses of wine, you might find yourself lightheaded, dizzy, or worse. When you're solo, there's no travel partner nudging you to drink more water or noticing when you start to look pale. That brings us to a third risk many seniors don't consider: falling victim to scams or theft. And this one stings because it targets your independence and your pride. Con artists are everywhere and they can spot a tourist from a mile away. But they're especially good at spotting someone who looks vulnerable. Older travelers are often seen as easy targets, especially if they're alone, look distracted, or seem unsure. You might be approached by someone claiming to be a helpful local, offering to show you the way. Or maybe someone accidentally spills something on you, then their friend offers to help clean it up while quietly lifting your wallet. Maybe it's a fake taxi. Maybe it's a new friend who turns out to be more interested in your credit card than your company. These scams work because they prey on kindness and confusion. And when you're alone, there's no second set of eyes. No one to say, something doesn't feel right here. So how do you protect yourself? One simple rule: stay alert, not afraid. Keep valuables out of sight. Use a money belt or hidden pouch. Be cautious about new friends who appear too helpful too quickly. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, leave. Don't worry about seeming rude. Your safety is worth more than someone's opinion. These risks aren't meant to discourage you. They're meant to remind you how precious your safety is. Traveling alone after 60 isn't impossible. In fact, it can be deeply rewarding. But it does require a little more thought, a little more planning, and a lot more self-awareness. Now let's take a closer look at some of the other surprising risks that solo senior travelers face. Ones that could affect not just your safety, but your entire travel experience. We've already touched on how getting disoriented, medical emergencies, and scams can turn a dream trip into a stressful situation when you're traveling alone. But those aren't the only risks that deserve your attention. There are others that are quieter, more subtle, but just as important. Let's keep going. Have you ever noticed how, when you're alone for too long in a new place, the silence doesn't feel peaceful anymore? At first, it's refreshing. No one to wait for, no one to compromise with. You eat when you want, you nap when you want. But after a few days, that independence can shift into something else, something that feels a lot like loneliness. And that's our next risk: emotional vulnerability. It often sneaks in slowly, like the fog rolling over a quiet hillside. When you're home, you've got your routines, your familiar spots, your people. Even if you live alone, you probably see neighbors, chat with folks at the store, or call a friend if you need to vent. But when you're traveling solo, especially in a place where you don't speak the language, those little daily connections disappear. Suddenly, every conversation is a challenge and every meal is eaten in silence. No one asks how your day went. No one laughs with you over a silly mistake. It's just you. Now, for some people, that solitude is golden. But for others, especially after 65, it can begin to feel isolating. And that isolation, it can affect more than just your mood. Studies show it can increase your risk for depression, anxiety, even cognitive decline. That's why emotional planning is just as important as logistical planning. If you're going to travel solo, think ahead about how you'll stay connected. Will you video call your kids in the evening? Join a walking tour so you're around people during the day? Stay in a place where the host is friendly and checks in on you? Don't leave those details to chance. Social contact, even just a little, can keep you grounded while you explore. Speaking of grounding yourself, let's talk about fatigue. This one might sound simple, but it's a real game changer when you're on your own. You know how it feels after a long day of sightseeing. Your feet ache, your shoulders are sore from carrying that bag, and suddenly that 1-mile walk back to your hotel feels like a marathon. When you're with someone, you might take turns navigating or motivating each other to push through. But when you're alone, there's no one to say, hey, let's take a break, so you push on. And that's where problems start. Fatigue can make you careless. It slows your reflexes, dulls your judgment, and makes you more vulnerable to everything else we've talked about: confusion, accidents, even falling. And here's the kicker. Fatigue doesn't just come from walking too much. It comes from overstimulation. Too many new faces, foreign sounds, unfamiliar food, and nonstop decisions. It's like your brain is always on high alert and it wears you down fast. So what can you do? Build rest into your schedule on purpose. Don't feel guilty for taking a midday nap. Choose accommodations that are comfortable enough that you'll actually enjoy being there, not just crashing there. And don't overpack your itinerary. You don't need to see everything. You need to enjoy what you see and stay well while doing it. And now there's one more risk we absolutely have to talk about. And it's one that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. Legal or bureaucratic trouble. Picture this. You arrive in a new country and the customs agent starts asking questions. You're tired from the flight and you accidentally say the wrong thing. Or maybe you didn't know about a visa requirement. Or your passport is about to expire sooner than you realized. Or maybe you rented a scooter to zip around a quiet beach town and didn't realize you needed a special license to do so. Next thing you know, you're facing fines, or worse, and there's no one by your side to help you sort it out. When you're alone, every misunderstanding feels bigger, every delay more frustrating, and without someone to help you navigate those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, or worse, to make decisions that land you in deeper trouble. This is why research is your best friend. Before you go, learn the local laws, especially around medications, transportation, and entry requirements. Make digital and physical copies of your travel documents, and know where your country's embassy or consulate is located, just in case. And here's a simple tip that many seniors overlook. Wear a medical ID bracelet or carry a medical alert card in your wallet. If anything does happen, responders will have the information they need to help you quickly. That one small step can make a huge difference. When it comes down to it, traveling alone after 65 isn't about fear. It's about respect. Respecting your experience, your independence, but also your changing needs. It's about being wise enough to recognize the risks, not to avoid them, but to prepare for them, so that your journey is filled with the kind of memories you'll treasure, not the ones you'll wish you'd never had. So we've talked about the confusion that can come from navigating unfamiliar places, the challenges of medical care on the road, the emotional impact of traveling alone, and even how fatigue and legal mix-ups can catch you off guard. But before we wrap this up, there's one final risk I want to bring to your attention. And this one, it's deeply personal, because it doesn't start at the airport or even during the trip. It starts long before you leave your house. It's the risk of not being heard when something goes wrong. Now, I don't mean people ignoring you on purpose. I mean something that's far more frustrating. Being in a situation where you know what you need, you know something isn't right, but you can't get the right kind of help. Maybe it's because the person you're speaking to doesn't speak your language. Maybe it's because they underestimate your concerns because of your age. Or maybe it's because when you're alone, there's no one else to speak up with you, to say, this isn't okay, please help us. That's the sixth risk, being overlooked in moments that matter. It happens in hotels, it happens in hospitals, it happens at train stations, bus stops, even restaurants. You ask for help, but people assume you'll be fine. Or they nod politely, but nothing gets resolved. And when you're alone, especially if you're feeling tired or a little off, it's easy to start doubting yourself. You wonder, am I overreacting? Should I just let it go? But let me be clear about something. Your instincts are valid. If something doesn't feel right, you should never feel ashamed to insist on being heard. You've earned the right to be taken seriously. One of the most powerful tools you can pack for any solo trip isn't something you carry in your suitcase. It's your voice. And if it's hard to use your voice in a new place or culture, use tools that amplify it. Translation apps that help you explain medical symptoms. Written cards with key phrases in the local language. And maybe most importantly, keep a list of emergency contacts and embassy support lines in your phone and wallet. People you can call who will listen and help make things happen, even from thousands of miles away. You don't have to feel powerless just because you're traveling alone. In fact, traveling solo can be a powerful reminder of just how capable you truly are. Because let's not forget something important here. You're not doing this because you have to. You're doing it because you want to. Because life after 65 is not the end of the road. It's the start of a new kind of adventure. One where you get to call the shots. One where you have the freedom to explore on your own terms. But freedom doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind. It means making smart, loving choices for yourself so you can keep enjoying that freedom for years to come. So yes, there are risks to traveling alone after 65, but there are also ways to prepare for every single one of them. It starts with awareness, it continues with planning, and it ends with confidence. The kind of confidence that lets you step onto that train or walk through that museum, smiling to yourself because you know you've got this. Before we wrap up, let's take a breath and look at the big picture. You've spent your life working hard, raising families, supporting others, being the dependable one. Now, this is your time to see the world, to eat gelato in Italy, to wander through markets in Morocco, to watch the sun rise over new cities and old streets. You deserve to enjoy every second of it, safely, confidently, and fully. And if that means taking a few extra steps before you go, like sharing your itinerary, learning a few key phrases, checking your travel insurance, or even inviting a friend to tag along, do it. Not because you're scared, but because you're smart. Because wisdom isn't just knowing how to avoid mistakes, it's knowing how to create the best possible experience, no matter your age. So if you've ever felt the urge to book a solo trip and wondered, should I really do this? Here's my answer. Yes, absolutely. But don't go unprepared. Don't ignore the real challenges. And most importantly, don't underestimate yourself. You're stronger than you think. You're wiser than you know. And you've got every right to explore the world in a way that honors both your spirit and your safety. If this video gave you something to think about or reminded you of something you've learned on your own travels, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let's share our stories, our tips, our encouragement with each other. That's how we all grow. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and tap that like button. It really helps more people see videos like this. And don't forget to subscribe because we've got so much more to explore together. Topics about living well, aging strong, and making the most out of every single day. So here's to you, your next adventure, and the courage it takes to keep going, one wise, wonderful step at a time. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. If this video gave you something to think about or made you smile, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom every week. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and join the conversation. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Until next time, stay wise, stay kind, and take care.